Yeah, so we made it to our second episode.
We're killing the game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it was a great experience listening back to and editing the podcast to find all the mistakes, and then transcribing the podcast. Also found a nice little nugget that we managed to use 125 different years throughout a little 15-minute podcast.
That's what we get paid for. That's what the big money's about.
It's a fair achievement to knock them out. But certainly,
we're the number one podcast with the name Business Blocks in it.
Is there any others? Surely there's no more in Australia. Surely
we're the biggest
Here.
ranking. We'll get on the what's his name? We'll get on who's that guy who does all the podcasts?
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, that's it. We'll be beating him soon.
He's up to thousands. He's in the thousands.
Nah, we're up to thousands, I think. I haven't checked lately, but our demographic is definitely, people living.
Yes, certainly. So what we're looking at first, this is the first episode of the Building Your Business series. So I think it's going to be working out 10, 12 episodes and giving you a step-by-step guide to starting your own business or adding to an existing business that may be lagging or not working as well as you thought it would work out to be.
Yeah, I reckon we go with the starting of the business, because I had a guy call up today with absolutely, just didn't really know where to start and sort of bouncing ideas off me about, if he's on the right track, what he should be doing. I think that's probably the first place we should start looking at.
So what did he come to you with?
He was just starting a small business, and he really didn't know. He just sort of said, I'm starting a small business. What do I do? We just sort of covered off the basics. It's about advertising at the end of the day, and then how you sort of get your name out there. And just sort of ran out how he can do it, whether he should be, paying people to do it. We've tried a few people that didn't work. Maybe he should do it himself. What's his knowledge around it? That sort of thing. But it was really, the conversations were really building blocks about how to structure a business, how to sort of run a business, what do you need to set up to start a business, where do you go about setting it up, how to keep the records. I think once you get your head around that, then there's everything else that comes with it. So
are you finding people are coming to you with ideas and just having no knowledge to take the idea or the skill and put it into a business?
Yeah, it's the typical idea that, the person is a master at what they do, but they just don't know how to build the sort of framework around a business, which is what an accountant is these days. So you build the accounting system that records everything. You give them the details about how, you review the information, you help them with staffing, you help them with, budgeting for growing, what they should be expecting, margins, all that kind of stuff is foreign to someone. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles that people have before they start business.
Yeah, certainly. So what I've been sort of thinking towards that is that we find that business owners that don't do that have a ceiling on how the business can grow, and it tends to fall in the category of you're making a profit or taking home a wage similar to what you would in that industry. And a lot of that comes back to not taking on accountant or expert advice to expand your knowledge, and really you're only building on your experience in the industry doing the work, which is just taking time, and you don't have the skills to actually bring new people on or market better or advertise better. You end up just having a highly stressful business, making a similar wage to what you would working for someone else.
I think it's because what people think the business is them doing exactly what they were doing in their job, but for themselves, when really it's not. Being a business owner is more about managing assets than anything, which is, I think it's a big shift. And, we've got some bigger end clients who still can't make that shift to being the person that manages, the assets of the business. So it's very, very common. And I think, and one of the reasons why I want to get into this podcast, I think it's just a knowledge and a skills shortage. And I think that's what needs to be covered off. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, well, I've jotted down 4 or 5 things here that I think we need to address firstly from a mindset point of view for someone starting the business. And first one up is critically assess your motivation and what your vision is for the business. And a lot of people don't think that far ahead and end up very quickly getting caught in a position where they're just doing the day-to-day grind and it's going around in circles.
Yeah, well, I think that was one of the things I said to him. I said, look at where you want to be in a year. What does that look like dollar-wise, business-wise, everything-wise, and then work backwards. So set yourself targets along the way. And it's sort of pretty basic stuff, but it keeps you honest and it keeps you moving forward and you don't get stuck in the business. So, if you set yourself, let's say, turnover of 400,000, actually getting to that number and putting a plan around that is totally different to just getting out there and just starting things.
It comes back to asking that question. You're hitting the time frame, the outcome, and then you're making them think about the personal metrics and personally what's successful business for them. And because you, as an accountant or a coach or an advisor, you can give metrics and targets, but it has to come from them what they think a successful business is as well, because they won't work towards your expectations or outside expectations.
No, and I think that's the hardest thing to get your head around. And today he was saying, he goes, I don't think he really understood what his successful business would look like. He just had an idea. And fleshing that out is sort of something that needs to be done personally, because at the end of the day, if you want to grow a business, you pay someone to advertise it or you push it yourself personally through whatever avenues you want to do. That is probably 90% of the problem, is getting your name out there. It's every good business starts with a business plan, and a lot of people don't understand the importance of a business plan because they don't really understand what's in it. And until you sort of deep in the, you're 6 months into running a business and you're sort of going, okay, I'm dealing with this. If you go back to your business plan then and sort of look at what you did then and where you wanted to be, it rechecks where you're at and sort of gets you back out running the business.
Certainly. And question for you, do you think it's easier today than 10 years ago when you started Tax4u to get your name out there, to advertise and to promote what you do?
Yes and no. I think it's easier than it was 20 years ago. I mean, the smaller or the small niche type business really didn't exist 20 years ago. It came in strong with the creation of websites and the online presence. So, and that's I think that's when I sort of started getting out there. But there was a bunch of there's a bunch of websites which collected people looking for work, and then you grabbed work off of that, and not your freelancers or your Fivers. This was just people who were just, 3 people would quote on a job and then that person would go with it. And 10 years ago, that you could sort of hit 4 jobs at a time and get the work pretty easily. So you get probably 1 out of every 4. these days it's just not worth it anymore because the money and time you put into those jobs just isn't what it used to be. Over the past sort of 10 years, so coming into the last sort of 2 to 3 years, I think there's been another shift, or maybe it's just a mentality shift in what we do in getting your name out there. You can still do a lot to get your name out there. I mean, Facebook is so easy to get out there. I mean, podcasts, what are we on, 60, 70,000 listeners right now?
Yeah, around that mark.
Yeah, so, I think the opportunity is still very young in the online area, but it just changes all the time. So what you were doing 2 years ago won't work all of a sudden. So you've got to really just get out there and find a new way. I think the new way is the Instagrams, the LinkedIns. Yeah,
an Instagram from accountant, how would that work?
I don't know.
The crusty old accountant up on Instagram.
I'm still not on Instagram, so I'm getting my head around it at the moment. But I'm getting there. But that's, I think I was looking and talking with you the other day. We've actually, we've got more followers on Instagram than anything, which I thought was odd.
Yeah, well, that's where the attention is. That's where the people are. I think you'll find that most people, or certainly most people you speak to, would have an Instagram account these days if they're under 30. And that's where everyone is.
Down. What do you mean under 30?
That's what the millennials are all over. Instagram.
Bloody Facegram and Instabook, all that sort of gear.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's just early doing some research around the mindset of a new business owner, and something to think about is, which I hadn't thought of, is you're actually saying hello to multiple bosses. You're getting rid of one boss, and then your customers or your investors or lenders become your new bosses. So you're actually, a lot of new business owners are trying to get away from having a boss and being their own boss. And in a sense, you're creating more bosses.
In a way, I also think that what you're doing is you're creating more of a direct relationship with the people you're working with. So, yes, they are your bosses, but yeah, you can just help them a lot different than if it was through a bigger company. So, let's say I work for Telstra and I'm selling mobile phones. I'm just smashing out a ridiculous number of phones every day. But if I'm a smaller niche, let's say business phone seller, I'm more tailoring what I do. And I think that's how small businesses come about. They look to come and do a better job than the big people. But yeah, no, it is true. I mean, and all customers are demanding, and I think we're forever striving to change what we do to make sure we offer a better product, and that's driven by demand, and us just trying to do the right thing.
And customers are they take a lot of time. They can be like your own children at times, really.
They are a bunch of children.
Then their needs are never seen to be fully met, and their asking and their wanting is never the right thing that you have ready to go on hand for them.
You're forever educating them, though. I mean, at least your boss has an understanding of what your industry is. With clients, you're teaching them everything that you do. They don't know really if you're doing the right or the wrong thing. It's up to how you communicate with them to sort of show how how. So the more you communicate, I think the better off or the easier it is to work with people. It's pretty basic stuff.
Yes. Evaluating your ability to work with other people. That's key before you sort of take on a business. If you can't interact on the daily basis with your customers or your staff or whoever you're looking to service, you'll have a tough time you might have to just go move back to selling widgets and stick with that business. It's not to
say that there aren't arseholes in business too. I mean, that does work to a certain extent. You can muscle your way through business. I just couldn't do it, and I don't think it's majority of the people don't work that way. But I've seen it work. I've seen really terrible people do really well because they pressure people into things.
The last two on the list of 5 mindset checks is add up your responsibilities. So do you have the time to actually to run a business, to start a business? Because a business is 24/7 job, and you may have too many commitments already with family and other requirements that it's simply not going to be a good fit to your lifestyle, and it may cause problems before you even start. So that's probably something that needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, time or money. I think if you look at that in your business plan, what it really takes to run a business, if you break it down to, someone's got to be advertising, someone's got to be marketing, someone's got to be addressing all the leads, someone's got to be doing the bookwork, someone's got to be doing the work, someone's got to be running the staff. If you start putting dollar figures on it, you sort of start to see how hard it is to keep a business running without putting in ridiculous hours. I think if most business people worked on an hourly basis and what they actually got paid, it probably
McDonald's
wouldn't be
wages.
worth it. Yeah, it wouldn't be far off. I've seen it. I mean, they might be earning 150,000, but the amount of hours they put in to get that money is just out of control.
It's just the offset. It's the decision, making the choice between it's a win or loss to everything, time or money, or family events, or getting work finished. You can't sort of do both.
It's about balancing it up, and it's something that I've tried to do, and I haven't unsuccessfully done. I mean, I've been really, putting everything I can into it, and you've got to do that for a certain number of time, but there should be a time, and if you plan it well, that you can rebalance and then pull yourself back out and sort of say, all right, now it's time to take a little bit of time. I mean, in saying that, I do take a few holidays a year, maybe more than most, less than some, but but I still
Partly
get burnt
twice
out.
a year isn't that a guaranteed?
If it's a slow year, yeah. But I get burnt out very quickly because the days and the hours in the day are generally 7 till 12 at night, and I've gotten used to that, and I don't think that's a healthy thing. So I'm trying to pull back from that a bit, but that's sort of been out of necessity rather than out of want.
Certainly, but you've also managed to balance raising a family and running a business, and then also creating and building a second business. So there's certainly, you got some advice in there that you could expand on.
Nothing that's healthy. I'm probably more of a workaholic, I think.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's something that's developed with time. I mean, to not turn off, I think, is an unhealthy thing. And that just sort of gets... Yeah, that sort of comes about from the pressures of business. So you're always on, you're always looking. I'm starting to fix that up now, but only after starting that second business and settling that down. It's like you sort of step back and go, okay, things are good now, things are okay. But yeah, it's hard. It's not for everyone. I don't think business is for everyone, but it is very rewarding. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, and this is what we're trying to get across to the listeners, to understand going in what is going to be required, and to make the hard decisions that maybe they continue working for someone else to get themselves in a better position to launch their business, or actually look at what they want to do and decide if it's going to be something they can invest heavily in. Yeah, so the fifth thing is risk tolerance. So as a business owner, you potentially starting your business with no cash flow. You've taken a loan from a bank, friend or family, or invested your own funds, and it's a scary position to be in. And you've got to understand that's if you can handle that could cause sleepless nights. That could cause other issues. And are you able to be able to accept that?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard.
Well, how did you manage building a business from nothing?
I think it was more of a stupid decision when I made it. So I just went out and just started it. Finished up one day and just said, all right, let's start a business. And through nothing but hard work, and I think, it's letterbox drops. I'd get one client out of that. All right, that's a bit of work then. And then I'd do the online thing. That's a little bit more work. Then it's the word of mouth. There's a little bit more work, and it grows and grows and grows. Was the right way of doing it? I don't know. Maybe not.
You just ripped the Band-Aid off.
Yeah,
went in. No safety blanket.
And I think that there probably is smarter ways to do it looking back, and I probably should have, there was so much I didn't know. And then that's the problem. There's always going to be so much that you don't know, and it's working through getting to a stage where you find you get into a rhythm where you know what works. And once you get to that stage, whether it's quick or whether it takes you 5 years to do it, that's it. Game over. That's when you start hitting your strides. Yeah, it's different for different industries.
And planning, yeah, there's only so much you can plan before you have to jump in and see what works.
Yeah, but it's the basics never really change. You've got to either offer something different, a better service, or a cheaper product. And if you offer one of those three things, you'll get customers. I think with what we do, it's just offering something that's more useful than what other accountants do. I think is our biggest goal, and you're just forever changing. You're forever trying to improve. But that's what I think gives me the most enjoyment is sort of growing the business these days. I mean, financially I do well, but the money sort of starts to take a back seat after a while. After a while, it's just numbers in your bank account. It really is. You're not going to get a lot from it. So you've got to develop something else that you get from it. You either got to really enjoy it, or you've got to get something you really enjoy from it. Otherwise, I don't think you'd last the journey.
Yes, you have to enjoy the work, or be doing something fulfilling. Yeah,
or there's got to be that end goal. I mean, you could sell washers, for example, which is not, it's not overly interesting, but if you sort of get those interactions, you sort of have a good set of people that you work with. I think that the day can become, really enjoyable, because it's not about the job, it's about the people, really. At the end of the day, it's all about the people.
Certainly. I think that's what I love working about with Tax4u. I feel like I'm part of 30 odd businesses and playing a role to help them be super successful, and that's where I get my enjoyment. I don't need to be front stage or steering that ship. I just want to be at the back supporting them.
Yeah, it's an exciting thing to do accounting. I mean, you really get to see the inner workings of hundreds of businesses, and you get to see it like on a yearly basis. You're never going to get that in any other job. No one else would invite you in and talk to you about their marketing plan, or
talk to you honestly. Honestly is the key.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Yeah. So, and there's no hiding as well. Sort of, because we can quite easily see whether you're talking rubbish or not.
Yeah, certainly.
It's good. But for other businesses out there, I think you've got to build something that truly reflects what you stand for. And if you can do that, no matter what it is, no matter if it's selling carpet, blinds, desks, printers, if you can provide it and it's honestly something that reflects you well, I think you'll get enjoyment out of it.
Okay. So we'll leave the show there for this week, Dale. We have spoken about finishing on a Dale's joke of the week, but we've decided to leave that on the cutting room floor and just give us a rundown of what are we going to look at step 2 of the starting your business.
I think we can start to get into some sort of, I think we'll start off with some basic fundamentals, like, what you need to register before you start a business. Do you need, ABNs, how to get an ABN, business names, companies, really general non-binding advice around that's going to get me sued. I think that's where we can start.
Okay. And then we can also include on all the show notes, so we'll be able to have the episode as well as the step-by-step just there for people to follow along.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about just covering off, like the conversation I had today. I probably went through, I'd say, 15 things that are just common with everyone. And I would say that I've answered the same questions 30, 40 times before. Exactly the same questions. And that's the basic introduction to business. And I think that's where we need to start.
Okay, great. Well, this is the reason we're doing the podcast, to palm off those podcasts. You can hit someone that gives us a call. You can say, jump on, listen to this, episode 1.
And what's the podcast called?
Business Blocks. Learning each week the correct name.
So
we'll leave it. Sorry?
You earned your pay this week.
Yes, exactly. We'll leave it there for this week and look forward to speaking to you again next week.